Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the first live studio audience episode of All the Way with William Bay. So this evening we're coming live from Redcliffe. We're coming live and rowdy from Redcliffe here at What's in the Pot, and thank you so much to What's in the Pot for hosting this lovely evening of food, free speech, and entertainment. This evening's entertainment shall consist of two great gentlemen. We are talking about the subject of law this evening, and we have Mr. Brendan Clark and Dr. Julian Fidge on the show this evening. Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, William.
And Brendan, thank you for coming on this evening, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself? Yeah, I'm just breaking up a bit, but yeah.
That's all right. We will persist. So over to you, Julian. So I understand that you've been fighting against a mutual friend of ours, Ahpra, we should call them, and also the Medical Board of Australia. Can you tell the people of the world what's been going on in your side of the sticks down south of late?
Sure. I had a complaint from an anonymous member of the public some time ago, which was about a sarcastic comment that I made about the efficacy of the COVID vaccines and how they were mandatory, and the COVID disease was such a mild disease in people. So the Ahpra and the medical board immediately continued their defamation of doctors based on that stupid policy that they put out with the TGA, saying that anybody who questions the safety of a vaccine is anti-vaccination. And that was complete nonsense. I've never been anti-vaccination. I'm a pharmacist and a doctor, and I believe strongly in vaccines. I think they're a very elegant solution, very cheap solution to serious problems. But of course, I'm a very well-educated doctor. I have a Bachelor of Pharmacy, a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery. I have my Graduate Diploma of Applied Science in Computer Science, my Fellowship of the College of General Practitioners, and I have a Masters of Medicine in Pain Management. And I know from all of my experience that you cannot just bring a new technique and a new vaccine to market that quickly, safely. So the medical board defamed me and said that I was anti-vaccination, and without any proper basis, they took action against me, and they made a decision that I needed to have education so that I would understand these things and not make comments about them in social media. So I think it's important to understand that nobody in the medical board is better qualified than I am to understand these matters. I've spent a good part of my life studying specifically pharmacotherapy. So I'm an expert in therapies, in drug therapies, including vaccines. So
just interrupt that for a moment, Julian. So what you're saying is you're a well-qualified doctor and you know, strangely enough, how to prescribe medications, but Ahpra and the medical board have been coming after you with some impositions on your medical license. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they said that I needed to have education, which was nonsense, of course. I'm better educated than any of the members of the medical board. And if anybody needs education, it's the Medical Board of Australia, because they simply do not have the expertise that they need to carry out their duties. So what they did was they improperly labelled me an anti-vaccination. And when I appealed this to the tribunal, I was granted a stay by the tribunal. And right. Ahpra and the medical board are incredibly dishonest, and they they think that they are above the law, and what they did was they decided that they would respect some parts of the stay order but not others, and they continued to publish the conditions on my registration. So I wrote to them and told them that they needed to take that down, and they just said, no, we don't. And if you share my screen now, I'll show you their reply to me.
Okay.
So this is a complaint
go.
I made. Thanks. That's not the screen now. The screen's changed. I'm showing something. I'm not showing medical counsel anymore. Are you looking at an Ahpra letter now?
No, it's I'm not. Just the Medical Council of New South Wales versus Lee.
All right. I'll try again. See if I can get it up.
Okay. Yep.
Seems to have there it is. Try that one. So this was back in November 2021. And the thing that they did was they wrote to me and they said that they can continue to publish the conditions because they had this case called Schleiter versus the Dental Board of Australia. And so it was AHPRA's established practice to record both the conditions and the stays on the public register. So I called bullshit and I said, that's not right. And I went back to the tribunal, and Ahpra managed to take this pitiful authority from the Tasmanian Health Practitioners Tribunal, which was decided wrongly, and convinced the member of the tribunal that, no, that's fine. The tribunal didn't actually have the power to do this. Magically, the tribunal's powers disappear when it orders a stay, and then they magically reappear when the tribunal makes a final determination, which they did, and they removed the conditions on my registration immediately. And of course, that's bullshit. There is no magic in the world, and the tribunal has the same powers, whether it's a stay or whether it's a final determination. Anyhow, the other thing is that the medical board knows that there is a decision called the Medical Council of New South Wales versus Lee, and the orders in that from a full bench of the New South Wales Court of Appeal is that when you have a stay, the conditions are taken down from the register. So I took this to the Supreme Court, and the justice there became hysterical when he found out that it was about vaccination, and he just spent a morning yelling at me and didn't make the correct decision. So I appealed that to the Court of Appeal, and yesterday I went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal was very disappointing. I explained why this was an important matter for the Court of Appeal to decide between these two conflicting authorities, why the medical board in one state, and this goes to this question of being a national body, because the same judge in the Supreme Court said, look, this is a uniform law, but the laws are different in New South Wales, so it doesn't apply. But he was wrong. He was just flat out wrong. The provisions, of course, are exactly the same because they relate to the National Register. And the National Register there's only one register, and the provisions in the National Register are the same everywhere. But I couldn't convince the Court of Appeal that there was any utility in this, and they came out very sceptical. And in fact, about 10 minutes into it, I just told one of the justices that this was fine. If they had no interest in hearing it, they should just tell me now, and we could abandon that case and just get into the second case. But they decided there was no utility. The Court of Appeal doesn't need to decide these things. And so these questions are going to go on. I have conditions which have been stayed on my registration at the moment. the bloody medical board is still publishing them, even though they know
Right.
about me, and they must know because I took it to the Court of Appeal yesterday, as well as them being involved in the original case in 2017, of course. But now I'm going to have to go back to the Supreme Court, make an application for the Supreme Court to get to order the medical board to take down the conditions which have been stayed off the register for my current conditions, because the stupid Court of Appeal wouldn't even accept that as being part of the utility of the question that I raised with them. It was very frustrating.
So like myself, you've been having some difficulties perhaps in getting, shall we say, a fair hearing in the court, perhaps, because you're self-represented as well. Is that correct, Dr. Fitch?
Yeah. So I represented myself, and I'm not intimidated by the judges. And I did get a hearing. I have little complaint about the hearing, but the decision was just ridiculous. The decision was beyond unreasonable. It was just negligent.
Yes. Yeah. Brendan, you've had a similar sort of experience in that perhaps justice wasn't done in your case. Would you mind telling the audience what's your background and where you've been coming from in the legal system?
Yeah, I hope I don't break up too much, but I've sort of been a coal miner working in the mining industry for 40 odd years. Lost you? Still there?
Yeah, no, you're good.
We're always good, mate.
Yeah, been 40 odd years, with 25 years with BHP. It was the same. We went to the Fair Work. A commissioner heard our case and basically for a start, to go to the Fair Work for a coal miner, we would have thought we would have been dealing with BHP, but they brought in the biggest law firm in Australia with their principal that heard it. He had a team of lawyers sitting in a room behind him, and like my wife's got a little. She's a lawyer, but she doesn't practice, so she doesn't. She sort of understands contracts and all that sort of stuff, and what the Fair Work means. But I think our justice system is a big problem as well. They just basically it disgusting. Like, they lied, didn't tell the truth. They didn't follow any of the workplace laws. They didn't follow any of the coal mining acts, employment laws. Nothing. They just ruled it wasn't in the public interest.
And Brendan, for those people who are just joining us now, could you just repeat that again? What was the reason why you were fighting BHP in the first place?
We refused the vaccination. We done like a risk assessment, a JSA they call them, and there was about 800 years of like coal mining experience that done a risk assessment, and then under the Coal Mining Act, if you can't risk something that to an acceptable level, it can't be done. But the managers and that didn't even buy to it. They just told us they don't have to follow the Coal Mining Act, Queensland Coal Mining Act, and so they just basically stood me down, which didn't even follow the our EA agreement. Then they just sacked me over the phone. Sort of, 25 years, see you later.
Sacked you over the phone, 25 years working because you wouldn't take that vaccine. Now, Julian, we'll say hello to Michael in a moment. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Now, Julian, you've said that you're pro-vax, but here we have a case of a hardworking person who has lost his job because of vaccine choice. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's illegal. So the TGA no longer recommends vaccination for people under 75. They finally sort of stopped their hysterical program of vaccinating everyone. So for someone to say that a patient who's under 75 needs to have a vaccine is actually suggesting ordering something that is off-label, and you can't do that. You can't make a patient use a medication which is off-label, which is not for something that it is not recommended by the TGA. That's illegal. They can't do that. The problem you have, of course, is what Brendan was describing, is you then have to take them to court and you have to say to a judge, this is what the TGA says. The TGA recommends this vaccine for people who are over
Sorry,
75.
and I'm missing a lot of your stuff.
That's all right.
It was about 12 months to the day that BHP dropped their mandate and started employing people back unvaccinated to the industry. But, yeah.
Yeah, no,
So you got your job back?
there's been so many cases of that going wrong for people around Australia. And certainly the man who's seen most of these tragedies and gaslighting would be Michael Gray Griffith. Michael, thank you for joining us this evening. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, I've just been on a Zoom with a lot of people who are trying to fight for Dazzle, who can't get a set of lungs because she won't get vaccinated. When I was in Toowoomba, I met another woman who came up because her friend, AstraZeneca, destroyed her friend's lungs, and now she needs a double lung transplant to live. But she has Dazzle's transplant doctor, and he will not put her on the list unless she takes the boosters. Welcome to Australia.
Yeah, so Brendan, as an average Australian, have you heard about that case of Dazzle Peters down in New South Wales about that lung transplant issue?
No, I hadn't, but like I say, I live out on a farm and we're sort of limited to access, as you can see on the phone. But like, I wasn't the only one. There was probably like hundreds of people in BHP, and a lot went to try and fight it at the Fair Work. And the Fair Work, before they even got to a hearing, talked them out of it, saying that you don't have a case. So, our justice system needs to be looked at in Australia. Like I say, we've got good laws and that in Australia, but the judges and the Fair Work commissions and that don't seem to have to follow them.
Yes, well, Brendan, that's a great little introduction to what I'd like to say about my situation. So I'm just going to add to the stage my little case here of Bay versus Ahpra. And so this here, it was the decision on the 7th of June, ladies and gentlemen, 2023, in my High Court case, where I was fighting for the right to have my Supreme Court matter moved to the High Court to hear the important issues of informed consent and the rights of the doctor and the doctor-patient relationship. And as Dr. Julian Fitch brought up previously, this is also relevant to whether a national law can operate across the entire country when it's just coming from Queensland. And so in this document, you'll see, and I'll read the first paragraph. I hope everybody at home can see this clearly. It says that the applicant, which was me, seeks removal to this court pursuant to Section 40 of the Judiciary Act 1903 of the whole of a proceeding now pending in the Supreme Court of Queensland, and that's correct so far, namely an application by the first and second respondents, which is Ahpra and the Medical Board, for summary dismissal of William Bay's application. So, Julian, am I crazy or am I right? Does that sound like they're referring to my matter or the first and second respondents' matter? What's your thoughts on that?
So it sounds to me as though they are referring to the other matter, not your matter. You just went quiet. You've muted yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Julian. Michael, I was just getting your thoughts. How does that come off to you? That judgment from the High Court, 7th of June. Is that about my matter, or would you say that's about the first and second respondents' matter?
I have to admit, when it comes to your case, I still can't get past the fact judges didn't even give you an explanation. I think that is the sticking point.
Well, let's have a look at that now. So if I remove that one from the stage, and then we'll bring onto the stage now So, Brendan, this is what they decided just on the 12th of October, 2 days before the referendum. They were ruling on a High Court appeal on whether that last decision about whether my matter was my matter or Ahpra's matter. And they, in paragraph 1, I'll read it to everybody. It says that this is an application for leave to appeal from a decision of Gordon and Stewart justices dismissing the applicant's application for removal to this court of the whole of the proceeding pending in the Supreme Court of Queensland. The decision of Gordon and Stewart justices is plainly correct. The application should be dismissed. So there we have it. My High Court appeal was dismissed without any reasons except to say that the previous court was plainly correct. But as we just saw, I think a plain reading of the matter would strongly suggest that it wasn't my matter that was ruled on in the first place. So how could I have ever gotten justice at all? I don't know. Dr. Fitch?
No, I can't follow it either. No, I can't follow it, Billy. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Do you think we're looking at a system, basically the system trying to protect itself? Everyone's invested in it, and that's what they're doing. And to me, you think laws, the High Court, and in the laws of the land should be there to operate impartially in our most difficult times, not just in easy times, but in our most difficult times, because that's how we hold our society together to get through dark times. And it seems in this period, it's just all gone skew with, it's insane. Police are arresting people knowing courts will throw it out. I mean, that we're in Canberra, and I'm talking to some of the protesters there. There've been over 400 arrests, and every single one of those arrests have been thrown out. Even a lot of the people spend a night in jail and stuff. They're just oppression. We're even talking now. I'm up to my 25th interview of people who were injured at the Canberra protests. They have incredible fatigue. They have doctors that told them they have some sort of radiation poisoning. I mean, this is it. I mean, I'm collating enough evidence everywhere I go to suggest that weapons, more than the LRAD, was used on peaceful protesters. And yet you've the police commissioner in the ACT stood up in front of Parliament and said there was only 10,000 people at the major protest, which was ridiculous. There was 10,000 people in the first car park, let alone all of it. I mean, we seem that the entire upper echelon has lost its way or is in just in protection mode of the state itself.
So, yeah, there has been many injustices going on. Julian, Dr. Fitch, where to now for you? What's your next plan in this matter regarding your conditions on your registration?
William, if I could just address Michael's concern, please. Could I share my screen again?
Okay. Yep. All right. Here we go.
So
there we go.
So Michael's quite right to be concerned. This has happened before in the not too distant past. So the German Supreme Court upheld the Nazis' racial vilification laws and extended them, and they played a large part in the pogrom, in the Holocaust, and the murder of millions of Jews and the horrors of the Holocaust throughout Europe. And this was a court that did this. This was a German Supreme Court. And there is no reason to believe that the Australian courts are immune from this sort of collective psychosis. My personal experience of the courts is that it is up to the individual justice. We've got this mad judge in the Federal Court of Australia, the one who put that guy in jail for a year because he didn't have some documents. And I hope everyone's aware of that. There's this mad judge in the Federal Court of Australia, and this fellow turned up to a hearing, and he didn't have some documents. So this judge said, "Right, I'm sentencing you to a year's jail," and he was very badly treated. He had to spend 9 days in jail, and he sued the court. He sued that justice, and he won. But it turns out that justices in Australia can do whatever they like, and they are immune from any of these things. One of this fellow's colleagues awarded $50,000 of the $360,000 damages in total against this particular judge. And the judges in the federal court went on strike because they believe they should be able to do whatever they want without being responsible for what they do. And this is when you have responsibility without authority. When you have authority without responsibility, then you can get exactly this sort of thing happening, where they stand there in their ivory chamber and just say, no, we don't give you leave to appeal this. We're going to dismiss your application, and we're not even bothered to get the case right, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, that's actually just dismissing it. This personality here. I mean, even what Brendan said at the gun, but the fair work tribunal. I was interviewing Dr. Pay and a few of the other people that were on his rescue helicopters, including Danny. Now, Danny was sacked for not being vaccinated, and he fought in the fair. Took it to fair work. And the guy said to him, one of the magistrates said, "Listen, I've had 500 applications. They're all failed. You're going to fail. There's no way you're going to win. No way." Now, about 5 months ago, a helicopter pilot, vaccinated, approached the Fair Work Commission to say that he was unduly sacked, and his case, he can't hover the helicopter. And the Fair Work said, "Yes, you've got to put him back to work." Now, you talk Danny or Dr. Hay, you're on a rescue helicopter. The major thing you need the helicopter to do is hover, because you're rescuing someone. If you can't hover a helicopter, you're of no use. And yet that guy won his case, and Danny and anyone else never stood a chance. That's where we are. We're in a mighty right situation, and that's what I see.
Yes. Michael, whereabouts are you? I understand that you're travelling towards our Gordon Countryway this weekend for Queensland's first 832 gathering, Gympie.
That's
north
right.
of Brisbane, are you?
I'm about to interview a man I interviewed a few weeks ago, but I want to do a much better interview with him. He operates in the first bats, and he's literally lost business. He's lost everything, and he's going to be about. And I just want to document the story. Just say this is nice. I mean, these people are basically conscripts who did not want to do it, were forced to do it, and against the COVID war. Now they've been injured. They deserve a shrine. They did what was right, did what the government said, and instead they are utterly ignored. They can't get disability pensions because the NDIS says you're not disabled enough. They are having their lives. They are just discarded. It reminds me of that play, Death of a Salesman, where they go, you can't just eat the flesh of the orange and throw the skin away. Well, that's where we are. They've destroyed these people's lives. I meet them. There's carnage out there, and they don't care. And these people are trying to survive as best they can. And every time they go to hospital, they just get told, usually, it's in your head. You just got anxiety. And yeah, of course I've got anxiety because it's my 20th time coming to a hospital with a heart rate of 190 or 200, and I feel like I'm dying. So yeah, of course I'm anxious. I think I'm dying. And that's what they get told. And often sent away with nothing. Yeah. I was just going to say to Brendan, sorry, Brendan, you went out. I just want to say, I interviewed a man who was on the rescue helicopters in South Australia, and he wouldn't get vaccinated. He was the crewman. So they sacked him. He went to Fair Work, and Fair Work magistrate said, I've had over 500 cases like this. You will not win. He went forward anyway, and he lost. But then recently, they had a helicopter pilot who couldn't hover. He just didn't know how to hover. So they sacked him, and he won his case. And he got back his job, even though he can't hover. He's a rescue helicopter, and hovering is the only thing you've got to be able to do. And he won his case. That's the hypocrisy of the time we're living in. Hey, guys.
It was the same in the coal mines. Like, there was hundreds that went Fair Work, and they talked them out of, even before they even got to a trial, they talked them out of even going there, saying there's no way you could win this. I think, like, me and my wife were just pig-headed enough to say, well, there is laws in Australia. We didn't think they wouldn't be followed as much as they did. But like I say, we had 20-odd different things we went to them about. They never dealt with one of them. They never looked at any of our cases. They just basically ruled, you didn't get the needle, you get sacked. They didn't answer any of the questions. The Fair Work commissioner that heard our case, he even, like, they brought in the manager and that from the mine I worked at, and if we asked her a question, and he would answer for her. He wouldn't let her answer if he didn't want to hear the answer that come out of her mouth, and it's, we're supposed to live in a free country, and we've got to deal with this sort of stuff. And I mean, we don't like to say it, but it looks like a little club that these law people run in. They don't, they don't want to speak, deal with each other, or I don't know. It's disgusting how they treat people.
Hello.
It is quite disgusting how they treat people, and we've got some lovely people here in Redcliffe, north side of Brisbane. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And we've got Rosalind and Julie and others in the back. So, Rosalind, please tell the world what you think about what's going on in your life the last 3 years.
So much depression, so much crap going on about lies. The government just does not lie. I don't think you can lie straight to bed, to tell you the truth. But yeah, they've got to account. They've got to pay for their crimes. They've got to come out, and they will pay. They will pay. God says they will pay, and they will pay.
Yes, we must make them pay politically and legally as well. That's what Dr. Fidge is doing, myself is doing. Ladies and Tony, anything else you'd like to say about what's been going? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm a hairdresser, and I've lost quite a few clients. Some have passed. Some have had triple bypass surgery, heart attacks, skin rashes, memory loss. My mum.
Can I ask you a question?
Open memory loss.
Can I ask her a
Really
question,
bad.
Billy?
They can't hear. Sorry, Michael, because I don't.
Can you ask her for me? I'm talking
Yeah, okay, go
to
ahead.
I'm talking to hairdressers who are saying lots of their clients are losing hair. They actually keep buckets near and hide the fact of how much hair people are losing. Has she heard of that?
So Michael says he's been speaking with hairdressers, and they've been losing lots of hair, even having buckets. Has that been experienced similar to you?
Lots of hair loss too, Michael. Absolutely, 100%. Luckily, I've got an iTerra wand, and I'm actually helping people with that, stopping hair loss. But yes, hair loss is a big, big issue. You can see the hair thinning around here. That's women, not just men. Ladies.
Yeah. Women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Did you want to say anything? No. Anybody else? No. All right.
Save the babies.
And save the kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Did you hear the case today, William? There was an 8-year-old child. It's all over Twitter. An 8-year-old child. I think when he was 7, they vaccinated him, and they were all sort of praising him for how brave he was, and look at this and how safe it is. Well, he's just had a heart attack and died at 8 years old. So to question Dr. Julian and yourself, how often do healthy 8-year-olds have heart attacks?
So so almost
All right,
never.
so we've got a bit of emergency.
Sorry, we've got an emergency.
I can see. So it's going to, I think, eventually come out what's happening. Can you remember the last time you were talking to somebody on the phone in a group of people and something like this happened? It's just
I know.
it seems to be
The norm.
Well, yeah, it has. It's become normal, and the horrendous thing is the age of the people who are affected. So we expect people to get old, and they will have cardiac problems, and they will die. But we don't expect that to happen in young people. And it is, the government has to stop fucking around, and they have to start looking at the increased rate of death, this excess mortality, and they have to find out how many young people are dying. What proportion of those people are young people? And they can't hide that. They can't just keep trying to sweep all of this under the carpet. There are literally tens of thousands of extra people dying. And if those tens of thousands of extra people are young people, then that proves that there is a huge problem with these vaccines, and they have to come clean. Now, I would hope that I'm wrong, but unfortunately, I'm not usually wrong. I'm very careful, and I don't usually get things like this wrong. And we've all been thinking about it for years, and it seems to me that it's the vaccines that are causing this excess mortality, and that's why the TGA has backed off, but they're still trying to hide it.
Because we had Sharon Cousins on, who's a researcher on our side, and she's working with AMPS at the moment. I had her on the show the other day. Victoria has almost 6,500 open coronial cases. They can't figure out a cause of death. And I was just thinking 6,500, surely that is highly unusual that they can't figure out why 6,500 people died. I mean, but that's the truth.
And were they vaccinated? That's the question. If those 6,500 people were all vaccinated, then that's the answer to your question. But if they weren't vaccinated and they died of COVID, that's the other answer to the question. But they seem to be hiding even asking the question. So these are all basic standard questions that you ask when you're trying to determine something scientifically.
Are you okay, William? What happened?
Yeah, we just had one of our patrons collapse during this session. The ambulance is on its way. He lost consciousness. We've got him on the floor in recovery position, and we've actually got a paramedic here from the Netherlands, so she's helping out with him. And I think he stabilised. That's why I'm back on. But yeah, we've got suspended doctors here and paramedics, so hopefully she'll be okay.
Not that you can treat them, you can just look at them.
Not that I'm treating him, Ahpra, that's right.
No.
I'm just coordinating the recovery effort, aren't I, Rob?
You just told him, I'm suspended. There's nothing I can do.
Doing what I would do, see if he's okay.
Yeah. So, this weekend, 8:32, Gordon Country, gordоncountry.com.au.
Yeah, come down.
You have done so,
come and see the chess battle.
Already. Yes, me and Michael will be going at it. We've also got people here this evening who'll be coming down to Gordon Country. There's a fundraiser at the 29th of October on riseupaustralia.brisbane.com.au regarding Senator Roberts, myself and others, Dave Fellow, speaking events. That's something to look forward to. Is he okay, Wilma? Okay, he's still okay. It's really a tragedy, I think, what the courts and the government have done to this country, because all we're trying to do is to help people and to make sure they are well. but the government and Ahpra is getting right in between the patient and myself. Like in this situation here, I'm not allowed to help, right? So this is we're experiencing live at this very moment. A doctor
exactly.
who is not allowed to help because of I said that Anastasia Palaszczuk is a dark mistress, and I said I didn't like the COVID-19 vaccines, and that's the reason I'm suspended for 15 months. So we must return informed consent to this country because there are so many nurses and doctors like me who have been prevented from working for no
So just
good reason.
sorry to interrupt, William, but can you just confirm that when you made those comments about the vaccine, were you at a conference at the time?
So what happened, Julian, was that I was at the AMA. It's all happening here, Michael. At the AMA National Conference.
Yes, because of you, William.
29th of July 2022, and I was a paid attendee, right? They were even taking photos of me on arrival. I wasn't busting in or storming down the place. I was a paid attendee. I lined up politely to ask a question on the topic of COVID-19, but as soon as I started saying something that was out of the narrative, they cut off the microphone, and so then I decided that it was so important regarding this issue that I needed to speak up for the sake of everybody. And then, to my surprise, instead of my senior colleagues debating with me, they all got up and ran away. So that was the moment that sort of elevated me, fortunately or unfortunately, in the public consciousness. And that wasn't even because of me, it's because my colleagues ran away from the issue. And the issue is that the COVID vaccines aren't as great as they were all made out to be. And why can't we talk about it? Still to this day, there's a gag order on all doctors in Australia.
So
How
but
can you?
we're talking about this to other doctors at a doctors' conference, and you were talking about doctoring, about medicines. So how on what planet can a doctor be prosecuted or suspended for talking about medicine at a medical conference to other medical practitioners? This is just insane. So you can ask the tribunal for summary judgment. I just went to the tribunal about my last matter and just said this is complete bullshit. There's not even a claim or an allegation here. I want judgment today, and I want this decided in my favour, and I want you to set it aside. And we went at it all day, and the tribunal member at the end of the day said, look, I'm not going to give you summary judgment, but I agree that this is a very problematic decision, and I'm going to write to the medical board, and I'm going to invite them to reconsider their decision. So that's a colossal slap in the face for the medical board. And I can't see that there is any basis. I can't see there is any basis for William Bay to be prosecuted for speaking about medicine at a medical conference. This is insane.
Well, look at Paul Oosterhouse. I mean, Paul Oosterhouse just posted a few memes in which he questioned the narrative, and after 32 years as a emergency anaesthetist, bang, gone, and he won his case back. But it's incredible, Dr. Mylee's another one. Hey,
Steve,
how are you?
what's just happened there, Steve? Tell everybody.
One lady who was unwell earlier, she just had a little bit of a heart issue. Yes, she knows what it is. She's had it before, and so she's okay.
So that's the second event there now, Mike.
So we've got two
patients under Steve's care at the moment. The ambulance are on the way. It's all
Dr.
too
Steve.
exciting here and all the way with William Bay. Yeah, Dr. Steve is on the case.
I was laughing. There's so many doctors around. I was interviewing Naomi Wolf, and she's a doctor. So I just asked her. I said, "What are you a doctor of?" And she goes, "Poetry." I went, "Poetry?" So, like in this case, she could be there and saying, "You know what's wrong with that lady? Her syntax is wrong. See, that's it. You fix that, she'll be all right."
Yeah, well, Steve's a doctor actually. Steve,
Maybe a doctor
tell
of
people what you
bullshit.
do while I go check on this lady.
Okay, well, I'm a doctor of bullshit detection.
I'm with you. I had a PhD in bullshit.
That's what my PhD accidentally turned into.
You know, but it's extraordinary times, Stephen. It's extraordinary times. And what's really extraordinary is I was talking to, who was I talking to today? I was talking to a woman who worked in a fish and chip shop this morning. And yet last night I was working with a creative director of the Disney worlds around the world. He was earning a fortune, but now he's here, unvaccinated, and can't get work. And then this woman who worked in fish and chips, she wouldn't take it. And what connects these people as I go around, the one connection I can see is that they critically think. Because I say, why didn't you take it? They go, it didn't make sense. And it was the things that didn't make sense to them. And for some reason, that's it. It's really interesting, you know. And now the same with the people who've taken 2, don't want to take any more. They're critically thinking, going, hang on, I'm taking a 3rd. 2 didn't work, you know. You know, if the first one didn't work, why would you take the second? This is Dr. Pay. And if the first one worked, why would you have to take the second? You know, it's just simple things. You know, Dr. Pay's another one. Here's this incredible man. He's been in war zones. He's been on rescue helicopters. Now he's on a farm by himself with 2 kittens. Just a waste of a great resource of a man. The same you, Dr. Fidge. Just a waste. A waste.
And you can't get any doctors in the country. You can't get any doctors to come out to the country.
That's right.
It's screaming for the doctors. They're closing hospitals and shit like this. So, you know what?
Rockhampton Hospital has no doctors at all. None.
No.
I was there the other day. There's no doctors. There's one in the private hospital, and they zoom him across. A whole hospital without a doctor.
No, it's disgusting what they've
Queensland
done.
Health.
That's
Queensland
right.
Health.
You want a doctor? Go to the dole queue. You'll find them there. It's insane.
I'll give you one here, please, Frank.
I was just saying, William. I was just saying I was at Rockhampton the other day, and I was interviewing people there, and they said that their hospital doesn't have a doctor at the moment. They're swapping a doctor from the private, and they've only got 1 or 2, and they swap. But you've got an entire country hospital in a major town doesn't have a doctor.
Yep. No, I used to work in Rockhampton Hospital there in Central Queensland. That's where I'm from originally. And, you know, I had high hopes when I started off as a doctor to help people, and I did it for 6 years. And then when it came to it, it turned out that all the ethics that we were brought up on, all the old school ethics that Dr. Julian Fidge would have taken in his classes and what he was trained to do, when push came to shove, the medical regulator told us to throw all that out the window. And it was this man here, actually, this gentleman, Steve McGrath, who was at one of our protests one day on top of another mountain at Mount Cootha. Last year, he said, "Where have all the doctors gone? I can't believe it." You're losing faith in the system, weren't you?
Well, yes, I had done some little while before that, but
And he said, "Where are all the doctors?" And I was actually hiding away, not letting people know that I was a doctor when I was leading the Queensland People's Protest. And so he brought me out of that moment and made me come out and say, "Actually, don't give up your hope just yet, Steve. I am a doctor. We're fighting for you. Informed consent is not lost yet."
Julian,
there was something else that occurred to me to say, Michael, about education as well. It seems that education is sort of somehow putting people to sleep. And before I stood for election for IMOP, I'd sort of hung back until I got my book published and all of that. And then I decided to stand, and then I held my first meeting. And so I came along full of what I thought was, my conflict resolution stuff. And I was just I sensed some resistance in the room. And then eventually it sort of came out, and I found that there's so many people without any education. They'd just been so much awake for so long, and I just hadn't been aware of it. And I just felt incredibly humbled by that, and it was just astounded me. And then I looked around and see so many other educated people falling for it. And I think, we all think, oh, yeah, we know what's going on in our profession and everybody else is doing the same thing. And so we all just trust.
Now, Michael, Steve,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on this evening. I'll just
Yeah.
take that out of your ear. And,
Yeah,
I've got Red Sharon here. Michael, do you remember this lady? You met her in front of the Ahpra protest one day. Just put this in your ear. Put that in your ear. Yeah, and then you should. And then now remember, Michael, you said to this lady about whether I should be protesting enthusiastically or not, and you have.
That's right.
Yeah. So, what do you think now?
You shouldn't be so. You shouldn't be so vocal or strong.
These days? Do you think Julian Finch should be out there fighting boisterously or keeping quiet? What is the state of play at the moment? What do you think, Sharon?
Not much. No, I'm very sanguine, and I kind of respond to what's going on. I don't do a lot of deep thinking. Oh yeah, look at the camera. Okay, look at the camera.
Can you hear her, Michael?
It's very awkward being engaged with this while there's all this noise in the background. So I'm sorry, I'm literally coming into this without having listened to the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, so you've spoken to this beautiful man, Michael Gray Griffith, on the street outside Ahpra after I got arrested that day.
I'm the one that took the footage of you getting arrested.
So do you
She did. You owe her for that.
Was I right or wrong to yell loudly at Ahpra?
That's a very solid question. I suppose you were right.
Was it too over enthusiastic?
Well,
you're right on the spot now, aren't you?
Do you think, Red Lady, do you think the problem is that we're such a conservative country that we don't do things like this, that we see it as unusual, and yet at the moment, this is what we have to do. You know what I mean? We have to rock the boat, because if you're not prepared to defend your rights and defend freedom, then you don't deserve it. That was one of the great presidents of America said that. Thomas Jefferson.
I believe in protesting. I went to almost every one of Billy's protests.
No. But the protesting was the vigor of the protesting we were talking about. There was the question, yeah.
Yeah, the vigor. All right. Well, it seems still lost for words. Okay. Thank you for your.
Can I ask a question to Dr. Fitch?
Yep.
Can I have a question for Dr. Fitch? Have you heard of Dr. Borchos? He was in Colac, and he has 2 vaccine-injured daughters, and he didn't like giving out vaccines. He was pro-vaccine, but then he had one profoundly injured, and he thought, oh, well, I just got unlucky. Then he got another one, and she was profoundly injured as well. And so he decided he didn't want to do it. This was previous vaccines. Anyway, so when he was coming up to this, he had to do the COVID vaccine. What he did was he found a loophole to give exemptions. And what he was saying was they wanted more informed consent. So he was giving them a 3-month exemption that they could go and get more information. That was his reasoning. On the Monday, he started offering them, and he didn't tell anyone. If you turned up, you got an exemption. Tuesday, there was more people. Wednesday, he lives on a small, his practice is in Colac. It's on a road which is literally a mile long. It was jam-packed. He had over 300 vehicles. All of Victoria was talking about it. Everyone was trying to get there. He had police, politicians, nurses, everyone else in line trying to get one of these exemptions. And then the police came, surrounded his little surgery, and Ahpra, I think, suspended him immediately, and then he resigned. Now, I went out there to do a full-on interview with him. I took 2 other doctors, and I talked to people in the town, and they said, nurses in the town said, this is the doctor you called if something was going wrong. If there was a bad birth, if there was anything like this, he could do everything. A complete asset to this town. But after that, after he was suspended, the local radio station spent 24 hours basically putting him down. It was just a loop thing saying what a horrendous doctor he was, what terrible. This is Stalin stuff. You know what I mean?
Look, I'm worried that I'm going to be the target of a really difficult to defend complaint. I'm worried that someone is going to say, Dr. Fidge raped me. Dr. Fidge raped me when I was in his practice a few years ago. I've never been able to tell anyone about this because I was too ashamed, but Dr. Fidge raped me, or
Yeah.
I think Dr. Fidge was touching my children inappropriately, or something
Yeah.
really vile. And people have lost their minds about this, and
The moral compass.
they feel able to do stuff like, for example, suspend a doctor for speaking about a medical issue at a medical conference. It just does not scan, and it beggars belief that that they're still trying to uphold that suspension. They're just crazy, and they're not just crazy. These people are psychopaths. They have no feeling for the people that they are affecting, and the only avenue we have really is the courts, and you just keep making these applications, and it costs an arm and a leg, but you have to bring this out into the public. And that's one of the things that court processes do, is I get to write down all this shit fuckery. I get to write it all down. It's all there, and people can go and look it up, and they can see exactly what has happened. And sometimes I even get a decision that goes my way. Sometimes a judge will actually be reasonable and make a decision based on law, not on what they're feeling. I have to share this story with you. I'm suing Pfizer and Moderna.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm suing Pfizer and Moderna on the basis that they are dealing with a GMO and they have no license for these products. So we put in this application to the Federal Court of Australia. This is the court that has that mad judge. Anyhow, and we have a letter of urgency. This letter of urgency goes in with the pleadings and it says, look, we think this is an urgent matter because of the harm that is being done from these genetically modified organisms, which are not licensed, which is a serious criminal offence. And by the way, they're very contaminated. And Justice Scanlon, I think was his name. Justice Scanlon was the judge. He was a duty judge, and the court forwarded him the letter of urgency. And on the Thursday or Friday, Justice Scanlon says, "Okay, well, this is urgent, and we should have an urgent timetabling hearing, and I want to see all the parties at 2:30 on Monday." So we rock in on Monday at 2:30, and a federal court judge, Justice Scanlon, walks in and he says, "I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind over the weekend, and I don't think this is urgent anymore." What's the urgency about this? We've been giving out these vaccines for 2 years. And there's just no basis, no grounds. It just obviously something had happened over the weekend to make him change his mind. And he just said, "Look, I don't think this is urgent, and I'm just going to send it off to the scheduling judge, and they'll deal with it in the fullness of time." This is how crazy it is. So we get the scheduling judge, and so the next judge I think is Justice Rofe at the Federal Court of Australia. So we get Justice Rofe, and Pfizer just say, no, this Dr. Fidge doesn't have any standing. He can't bring this action, and we need to have a hearing about this. And she doesn't blink an eye, doesn't ask for any basis for this, doesn't ask for any grounds, just a complete servant to Pfizer. Yeah, fine. That's we'll have a hearing about this. You haven't given me your grounds, you haven't given me any basis for this application, but I'll give you your hearing, and we'll do that on the 23rd of October. It's just unbelievable. Sorry.
Yeah, it's hard to get justice. So hard in this country, but we will keep trying. Michael, do we have to wrap this up now? Is your next show on the way?
Yeah, there's a person coming on at 9. But you guys can keep going. I'll just take it off Cafe Lockdown. I've still got the Rumble going. So you guys can keep going with that if you like. I'll stay on even. I'll just take it off Cafe Lockdown.
Yeah. There's a lot of action happening here anyway, as you know, with these medical emergencies. So I'll probably draw it to a close now. But I will just ask maybe a closing statement from each of you, and then these ladies here, and we'll finish off. So, Brendan, what would you like to say about justice or your fight in this country, just as a closing statement?
I think, I mean, I don't know, but it sounds like someone's paying them to make their decisions not based on the facts that are going to them. Yes, some higher power that seems to be controlling them. You know, I don't know how you can get someone in your doctor's case that can make a decision on a doctor that doesn't have a medical background to know what's going on, you know, and how a coal mine can sack us and not follow any of our industrial laws or any of the procedures and policies that go with it. And it's not a good spot to be in. But we just got to keep fighting. We need a bit more strength to keep going.
Yes. Sorry to hear your troubles there, Brendan. Thanks for coming on this evening. Dr. Finch, closing remarks?
Yeah, sure. I'll be appealing the decision of the Victorian Court of Appeal to the High Court, and I don't expect the High Court will even give me leave to appeal, but they should. There's ample reason for them to do that, but you have to, even if everybody else does the wrong thing, I have to do the right thing. 2 + 2 is not 5. 2 + 2 is 4, and we have to try to keep the people around us on the straight and narrow path of sanity and bring them back from this group madness. And I'll be in court on the 23rd. I'll be in court on Monday at the Federal Court of Australia in Melbourne, and where Pfizer are going to, and Moderna have attacked my standing. So in order to bring this application, I am required to be a person who is aggrieved. That's it, a person who is aggrieved. And they have said that I'm not an aggrieved person. And that is the basis of me having no standing to bring this. It's just insane. And the problem is that the Federal Court of Australia will probably say you're not a person or you're not aggrieved or something like that. And then we'll have to make the decision about whether or not to appeal to the full bench. And apparently they're not very good either. Apparently they are very quick to dismiss, to find that people don't have standing. So it doesn't matter that I'm a doctor, that I'm a pharmacist, that I've given tens of thousands of vaccines, and that I'm personally liable for the work that I've done in perhaps giving out vaccines which in fact are not properly licensed. Apparently, I'm expecting that they're just going to gloss over all of that and say, no, none of that counts. You're just not an aggrieved person. You have no prospects of success, so fuck off.
Well, I hope they don't say that to you. All the best, Julian. Thanks so much for coming on this evening. And keep fighting, mate. Keep fighting no matter what. Michael, any closing remarks from you, sir?
Yeah, I want to say where we are in history now, we've been here before. We were here when the Nazis took power. We were here when the USSR was being established. We were here when the CCP was being established. And the reason those regimes were able to establish themselves is because nice people did nothing. They knew something was wrong, but they just tried to stay quiet or adapt their way out of it rather than standing up when it was still able to do it peacefully, which is what we were able to do now, and say, no, unacceptable. And just that, that's all we have to do. And if we don't do it, if our generation doesn't do it, then we will enslave the next generation and the following generation, and our great-grandchildren will have to get this country back and the liberty that we're giving away, and they'll have to do it with blood and over dead bodies. That's what history teaches us. Right now, we are the most important Australians that ever lived because everything we love about this country is under threat, and we have to find, especially the men, we have to find the courage to stand up and say, unacceptable, we're not slaves, we're Australians.
Thank you, Michael. Beautiful words. 8:32. And Rosalind, to take us out for this
8:32.
evening, Rosalind, take the stage.
Well, I just want to say that we're all going to stand strong. It doesn't matter what happens. We just got to give our lives if it takes our lives, okay? Because they're going to take us out. That's their idea. They want to take us out. It doesn't matter how or anything. It doesn't matter to them. So we're just going to stay strong, believe in God, and save our children, because our children is our future, and the children can't stand up for themselves, so we've got to do it for them.
We will, and ladies and gentlemen of the world, I promise you that we will win. Everybody, thank you for joining us. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Brendan.
No
We'll
worries.
catch you next
See
week
you.
on All the Way with William Bay. But take care for now, and God bless everybody, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, William. Good night.
I'm sorry, William, for being so